Hey there, welcome to a live conversation we're going to be having today with today's Connect with Sheila Botello podcast guest, Scott A. McMillan. We're going to be talking about his book that he released earlier this year, actually last year, as well as some other, here he's joining me right on time. That's awesome. If you want to just request to join Scott. And there's a bunch of other new things that have happened since his book has released. And I'm really looking forward to you hearing from him directly. And there's always so much wonderful ground to cover in this experience here live. I love to kind of keep the conversation going with podcast guests. And here we go. Now from Toronto. On this gorgeous springtime day, the birds are singing. I actually have a window open right now. How are you, Scott?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing, Sheila?
I'm wonderful. I was just
Good.
saying that the springtime weather is, it's just so good.
I know. I know. It's been a great few days.
It has. So how's the family doing?
Good. Good. Yeah, we've been out trying to enjoy the weather, and it's nice, of course, with pandemic to be able to go outside and much easier to socially distance and but still enjoy some outdoors.
Absolutely. Yes, I have big plans for the summer. I think a lot of
Good.
people do. We're
Yeah.
all going to be really doing a lot of probably staycationing still,
Yes.
but there's so much to see where we live. It's such a beautiful space. Now, you live right downtown Toronto, correct?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so you get to
We've
see
got
a lot on foot, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And we've got some great park space right around our home. So yeah, it's really easy to just head down and then enjoy some wide open spaces.
Oh, I love it. And the lake shore. I mean, really,
Yeah.
is there anything better? Oh,
That
it's
harbor
so
front.
good.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So since we last spoke, Scott, a lot has been going on for you. I'm sure so much more behind the scenes at Grammar Factory because you're working with so many different people, so many different projects, as well as your own. And I was really excited to see you've recently launched your very own podcast,
I have.
Entrepreneur to Author. And I've
Yeah.
listened to the episodes. Oh my goodness, so good. And I love how you're starting off with like bite-sized stuff. I imagine, will you be having guests on then, different authors hearing their journey?
Yeah, that's certainly the plan. My thought with the podcast was to start out really by laying the foundation of what entrepreneurial author means, and some of the fundamental concepts that I cover in the book. Obviously, the book and the podcast work hand in hand, and so yeah, the first probably half dozen or so episodes will be me simply talking, sharing my perspective on some of the fundamentals. And then you're absolutely right. I'll be getting into talking with people who've actually done the entrepreneur to author journey and get their perspective on what that's been like, some of the challenges they face, the benefits that they've seen, and of course, giving them the opportunity to share their message with my audience.
Yeah, I think that's so valuable, especially since here, I'm going to just grab mine. It's literally sitting, I was going to pull it out, but it's like right beside me on my bookshelf. It's never far because, it's good
Oh, wonderful.
stuff. Entrepreneur
Yeah,
to
wonderful.
author. Oh, and it's like, it's substantial.
It's
Everything you
yeah,
need to know is in this book about like the mechanics of getting started, of deciding like, is this even for me? Like you have to think about this. Like, oh, I want to write a book. Yeah, there's a lot more that goes into it. And it, like you had said in the podcast that released today, there's so much that you have to consider going forward. And really, what is the purpose of the book? Often, like I know a lot of people think that, or at least historically have felt that writing a book, it's like selling that book and just selling lots and lots of books. And certainly for people who are in fiction writing, I read a lot with my kids too.
mhm,
And it's like, oh, when's the next one coming out? And then you want to reread it and et cetera. But this particular book for you is, it's like a really big business card as to what you help authors do through Grammar Factory. And it helps take them on the journey of really preparing them before they even could work with you or perhaps someone else as well. And the thing is, it's like a beautiful calling card. And definitely there's so much credibility that comes from you sharing your journey and also the nuts and bolts of what it takes.
yeah,
So that is the difference. And I really believe that we do need every different avenue to help propel our message forward in what feels very often like a crowded online space.
Yeah.
We need to be able to set ourselves apart. I think you've done this beautifully with this book and in what you're sharing on your podcast as well.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, I tried really hard to fit 80,000 words on a business card, and the font size is just so small that it was very hard to read. So, no, you're 100% right. Yeah, it's really about being where your audience is and where your target customers are, right? And for me, that's a reading audience. It's an audiobook audience, right? Entrepreneur to Author is available as an audiobook. It's a podcast listening audience, and that's not always the case. I've got some entrepreneur friends who build their authority through television, right? They have television series. You see this often with interior decorators and home improvement specialists. I've got another entrepreneur friend who recently launched a documentary film, right? Full-length documentary film. So books aren't the only way to establish your authority, but what I like about it is it's a way to codify and package your knowledge and your expertise, and present it in a way, A, that is digestible for your audience, but B, that you can then use that and translate that into other media, such as a podcast, even video, episodic television, and what have you. So I see books as kind of a fundamental, foundational platform for some of the other media as well.
I agree with you. And it is accessible. It can reach more people in a targeted way because, I mean, especially the title, it's going to appeal to people who it would really work for, and it would be in their wheelhouse. So, and then also, one thing you mentioned is you actually did go ahead and put it on audiobook. So it is available on that as well. And I wasn't sure at first. I mean, I love listening to podcasts, obviously. That's why I started one too. And what I find is I will listen while I'm doing other things. And then the highlighted things that I really want to dig deeper on will stay with me. And I can like maybe leave myself a little voice note. But then the nice thing is you can go back and actually look at it in the hard copy version as well,
Yeah.
so that you can like kind of highlight, dog ear pages, get a working copy going. I just want to say hi to some people who've joined us. We've got Solitco, we've got iCal de Santos. Well, I love Instagram handles. They're hilarious. Maria Sunshine, and who is saying hello from Trinidad. Hello. So nice to see you.
Hey, that representing.
You know who that is. Yeah. So again, then Jennifer Morris as well. And many more people will be seeing this after the fact. I love to just keep these up on my Instagram TV afterwards. People typically will dive in and look more and more. And as I was mentioning before you got on, I love people, and I love hearing the journey of what got you to where you are. And so for those of you who are interested in knowing what took Scott from really, my goodness, graphic design and media into corporate work, in consulting, and then into entrepreneurialism, launching his own product, and now owning a publishing company. He goes through the whole story on episode 65 of my podcast, Connect with Sheila Botelho. And it's really an enlightening thing, because one thing that always stands out to me, I mean, certainly before we even spoke, I mean, I've known you for so many years. We knew each other in high school.
Yeah.
Is you are very family focused. And some of the things you share in that, certainly there's the nuts and bolts about the business, your journey, but then also the family stuff and the way that you value time freedom because of what you can do with your family and be a part of your son's life growing up. And I just love that so much. I mean, some of the things that you were talking about, you were like thinking, okay, let's see, he would have been this old. And I'm like, it's so much really what a lot of women typically would experience in the family conversation. But I love that you're so family focused. And you give a lot of people promise about, hey, you can start a business, start your passion project, and you can also have a family life. You can design it that way. I feel like you've designed a beautiful lifestyle for yourself. Yeah, it's really inspiring.
Oh, well, I think that's key. I think you've really nailed it on the head. Is you can take what is thrown at you and try and make that work, and many people do, right? There are many people that work 9 to 5 or 6 to 8 or whatever it is, and make that work, and it works for them. It doesn't work for everybody, and I think what the last year and a bit have really shown us is that there are ways to kind of you don't always have to trade everything off, right? You can find ways to fit your work and your lifestyle together, so that you're not making as many trade-offs as you would otherwise have to make. They're actually compatible, or they can be compatible if you design some key elements to facilitate how you want to live your life. So yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head there.
Well, and I think, you had mentioned a bit about your morning routine and the way you like your days to flow, and then the way you like to be able to be there to pick up your son at times, through certain times through the week. And he really looks forward to that. And it's like realizing that you get to choose how to best take care of your health as well in the process. Because often, especially entrepreneurs, business owners, people at high levels in corporations, they live, eat, sleep their business. And very, very often what I find happening as well is it's hard to turn it off. You can be on vacation. And I know so many people who go away, and by day 4 on their 1 week vacation, they're just starting to relax, and then they have to go back again. So
Yeah.
you said something so pivotal, and that is what gets you up in the morning is you love what you do.
Mhm.
And then partly it's habit too, but that's so important. But it didn't happen overnight for you, did it? There
No,
was a bit of a
no,
journey.
absolutely. Yeah, I think for all of us, it's a journey, and you kind of discover what works and what doesn't. Um, you made a comment in the podcast as well that I remember, about when you take that step from employee to entrepreneur. You have to decide what you're going to bring with you and what you're going to leave behind, right? And I recall the point that you made was, it is very easy to continue to work 16, 18-hour days. In some ways it can be even more tempting because you're now working for yourself in an area of to find a way to set work aside and make sure that you're leaving time for yourself and for your family and your friends, um, while also getting the work of the business done too.
Yeah, it's always going to be there. And really, my whole focus of helping people who have ambition in their life and things they want to achieve to really start with their self-care is because it's your whole life. There's no, I mean, for years I've felt I never really ever want to retire. Like, I always want to have something I'm working on. I want to wake up with purpose and passion. And that's why we're here. Our hearts are still beating for a reason. And I don't think we were designed to just kind of sit around. I mean, yes, we do need to take rest, but if we build that in, it helps us go through the marathon of life with much more enjoyment, and
Yeah,
hopefully with great relationships, because relationships take time, they take intention, and they don't just happen by default. And we've certainly noticed that this year. I think so many more people, like, it's kind of, some got very isolated because they didn't know how to really reach out into an online space to stay connected, or they didn't feel comfortable with it, or they realized they didn't have the deep relationships that they thought they had, because they just didn't have to work at it. They were just there when they'd show up in the morning, wherever they ended up, at work or school or whatever. So, and then the other part of the population was like, ooh, they got more connected, and they had wine dates and book clubs and all of these things virtually that they did, and meetups outdoors wherever they could. And I was taking walks, like socially distanced walks with friends through the wintertime, as cold as it was. I didn't feel the cold so much because I was in great conversation. And so
yeah,
you really need to take such good care of yourself. And in doing so, that can help you achieve the goals you have, but also keep you on purpose as well.
yeah.
So I would love
Sheila,
to, oh yeah.
well, I was just gonna say what I love about that mentality, that philosophy, is we for better or worse, we can only spend so much time on vacation, right? And stepping back and fully, relaxing and de-stressing. What I love about your philosophy and your approach is you embed that into your everyday life so that everything is more sustainable, and you can be more productive on a daily basis and be more more grounded and centered, rather than just going hard and waiting for that once or twice a year where you can lie on a beach and just let everything melt off you.
Well, and it's thank you. It's through practice, right? Like that was what the 20s were all about. Just it wasn't 8 till or 9 till 5. It was 8 till faint. And
Yeah.
a lot of commuting, late nights, 70-hour work weeks, and I had the energy and I loved the people I was with. It was all good. I was in a startup at the time. And yet then you realize your health starts to take a hit. You stop listening to really, how am I feeling? And so building in, like, I think the basis of what I try to teach people with self-care is building in that question regularly throughout the day. How am I feeling? How am I accessing joy in this moment? Or how can I find more joy? Because let's face it, a lot of our days can get kind of mundane. Even when we love what we do, it's like, okay, got to get this post out, have this conversation, got to check the schedule. Like scheduling is a big thing, right? Connect with this person, that person. But I've tried to instill that also in my boys as well. And I'm hoping that it really rubs off. I feel like it is. They're in their teens, they're 13 and 15. And, they kind of joke with me because they're like, man, it can be like a stressful situation. And I'm like, oh, so what's cool? We can learn from this so that next time we're going to have a better experience. And imagine we can look back on this and laugh or be like, wow, we learned something. And, they laugh about it. So I think it's getting in there, but it's their job to kind of tease me as their mom as teens.
Of
right?
course,
Like
of
a
course.
rite of passage. I love it. And, they're also navigating their life online as well. And so,
Yeah.
but because I've home educated their whole lives pretty much, like my son just did online high school, started in September with the ministry, but online, they're very self-directed. And they also know the importance of getting outside, connecting with nature, connecting with their friends in any way they can, right? Like we need to learn this young. And I'm grateful, like my husband's always been very, very present, very like always wanting to be a part of all the big experiences and the little experiences with them. And he's, based on the work that he has done, he's been able to take a lot of time to do that and be home a lot. And so he really resonates, I think, with your ethic as a father as well. Because the time is fleeting, and he's always joking, well, soon they're not going to care that I exist, and I think he's actually surprised they still do care even at this age.
Yeah.
So you hope for the best, right?
Absolutely.
But we're all experiencing this together.
Yeah, for better or worse, like you mentioned, right? I think some people have really taken the opportunity to lean in and find ways to connect even against all odds. And we'll all get out the other end of it. I just learned this week that my parents have their appointments for their vaccines, so that's really exciting. And we're all going to get there, and we'll come out the other end. But some people will have found ways to make it work in the meantime, and we just do the best we can to support one another.
Yes, and I do love that people are making plans to see each other, and it's going to be a high priority. So now we have Jennifer Morris is asking, what are some key points in your book that you feel has changed your perspectives?
That's a really good question. And what I like about the question is it recognizes the fact that often when we go into the entrepreneur to author journey, or authorship journey in general, right? Whether it's for your business or just your writing in general, you don't have all the answers going in, right? You have a message to share. You have kind of your core principles and your foundational ideas, but you discover a lot as you go. And I certainly did that. I certainly it helped me dive into, flesh out, and put some meat on the bones of certain concepts that I had, maybe a 50,000 foot view of and perspective on. But what happens when you write is you have to get down to the detail, right? You have to understand how it works. And to answer your question specifically, Jen, even after writing the book, what I did was I created a a bunch of worksheets, a workbook, effectively to help people go through the process, the entrepreneur to author process. And that took it even a step further because you really, when you're making worksheets to support the material that you've written about in your book, you have to get even further into the weeds to think about, okay, when somebody's going through this exercise, for example, to plot out the outline of your book, um, what do they really need to do step by step, and how can I guide them without being present in the room with them, right? Because we do workshops with people to help them plan out their book, but when somebody's working through worksheets, I'm not going to be there, and I got to make sure that that the instructions are clear and that people are experiencing the same process. So I learned a lot about my own process of how I help people through the journey in ways that I don't think I ever would have had I not actually sat down and written the book and figured it out at the minute detail level.
Oh yeah, that's a great question, Jennifer. And yeah, it's very yeah, experience is everything, right? We have to go through it. And I think though you also as a publisher, you have so much empathy for the people you're working with as they're walking through that process. Some of the questions you probably find, you hear a lot of the same questions over and over. And then I'm sure some new ones come up, but then you're learning from the people you're working with, right? So it's very symbiotic.
Yeah.
What are some of the other resources and things that as a publisher that you, or initiatives that you have ongoing and that you have coming down the pipeline?
So there are a couple of things, and again, this kind of comes off the back of the book. There are two programs that we're working on. One is, a community, entrepreneur to author community that will help people, learn more about the 5 steps of the steps method, the entrepreneur to author steps method. And then for those that want to take it a step further, I'm really thinking through how could we develop some sort of accelerator program that would help people go from, I have an idea for a book that I'd really like to write, help them through figuring out the strategy and linking that to their business, and then getting them from that point through to the point where they have a manuscript that could go into publishing. Some people can naturally work through it on their own, but what I've heard from people who've read the book, who I've had conversations with, is that there's a segment of people that would really appreciate and value that more, more accountability that comes with some sort of group program or one-on-one program.
Ooh, I love that. And yeah, I've heard a lot about writers' retreats and things like that, which maybe not as accessible now, but a lot of people switching over to virtual. And one thing I've found that's really great in not just in publishing, but in other businesses is online co-working and, kind of specific time where you're all online at the same time, kind of working together. And there's some guidance from someone if you're all working on a similar type of project. And it's so, you feel like you're not alone. You feel like even though you're a solopreneur perhaps, or, you're the one writing the book and you are on your own, you're getting that feedback that you need. You're getting that support. You're with people who understand the grind that can be writing a book.
Yeah, that's a really fascinating model that I had never considered, or had I thought ahead, I probably wouldn't have thought that people would have any interest in that. But I've seen that pop up in a few instances where, everybody's just kind of working quietly. It's almost like you're in a library with, a professor there if you have any questions. And, people do value that, and it seems to work. So, it's more broadly, it's really interesting to see the models that are emerging just because of the situation that we're in. And some of them are terrible and won't be continued. But I think others are going to see a long life, even once things are back to some semblance of normal.
Yeah, it's the way we innovate is through often the chaos, right? And I'm just going back here through a couple of comments. We have someone says yes. So MMA Habir says balance is key. And then of course Melanie says feedback and accountability. Yeah, like it really, in whatever way, whatever shape that takes, knowing that you've got someone who's got your back while you're going through the process, it's a beautiful thing. So
Makes a
I'm
big difference.
excited. I'm so excited for what you've done in such a short time, really. I mean, my goodness. Like from actually acquiring Grammar Factory and then also writing your book and everything, I feel like it just went boom, boom, boom. Because it was meant to be, I think it was really aligned with where you were at. And I'm excited to see where this all takes you. And I'm also excited to just stay in contact. I know lots of authors. So for your podcast, we can
Wonderful,
definitely
wonderful.
share some of those friends.
Yeah,
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 it's
I'm really
just
excited
wonderful.
to continue to watch your progress as well. I mean, I was a fan of listening to the podcast before I was ever on it, and
Oh,
for anybody who hasn't subscribed yet, I really encourage you to, because the combination of guests that you have, and also your talks, your solo talks, both have been incredibly valuable, and I think that people will get a lot out of it, to listen really from the start onwards.
well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's wonderful. And yeah, I'm never alone on any of my walks. I have so many podcast friends, some besties who don't even know my name, but I
Those
feel
are the
like I
best.
know them from listening to them, right? So,
It's true.
well, I'm so
Yeah.
glad you could join me today and take this time. I love this time of day because it's kind of in between for a lot of people, getting lunch or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just want to, again, everyone, make sure you're following Scott, follow Grammar Factory, go to entrepreneur2author.com to get the book, to get the resources, to, go to grammarfactory.com to get information about if you are looking to write a book, have a discovery call, figure it out, right? And then also make sure that you go listen to Scott's story over on episode 65 of the Connect with Sheila Botelho podcast. You'll see it anywhere you listen to podcasts. And I will also link it in the notes below this when it goes over to Instagram TV. I'm so grateful for you. And I just love chatting with the fellow Ottawa Valley friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Ottawa.
Yeah, go Sens, go. I
That's
don't even
right.
know
Yeah.
what's happening in hockey right now,
Well,
so
they're
I'm
they're not looking
sad.
great right now, but the future's bright. Let's call it. Let's say that.
You know what? We always can dream, right? We, living in
Yes.
Toronto with like the Maple Leafs and stuff, like faith and passion can really create a great franchise.
Yeah. It's all about hope, right?
That's right. Well, all the best to you and the family, and I look forward to
Uh,
staying in touch. And yeah, we will go chat. We will make sure we stay in touch and talk soon. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
yes. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Sheila. Great to see you.
Bye. Take care, Scott.
Bye.